Okay. We're not doing a mic check. Okay, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Rambling Through Everyday Life with Fran and Angela. And if you're watching on the old YouTube channel, Angela,
we're back.
And I look like absolute death.
As do I.
So
you have better reasons than I do.
This is the episode that we decide to, come back on video. That just goes to show you we don't care what we look like. But as you can tell, listeners, Fran has got a little bit of some crud that I picked up after my New York City trip.
Do you know what it reminds me of?
I don't know what.
Last night, I watched the episode of Friends where Phoebe sings Smelly Cat and she has the cold and she thinks she sounds so amazing.
Yeah.
And then she's so sad when she gets well and she loses the raspy voice and then she's trying to lick things that sick people are drinking.
No, that's awful. This is my, when I would sing in the choir at church, this is my really good alto voice that I've got going on. And, so yeah, it'll go away. I'll be sad. But anyway, here we are, everybody.
Here we are.
Welcome to the show.
So exciting. And one thing we have started in the last couple of weeks that we'll do for this podcast and I guess keep doing in the future. If you are following us on Facebook, we have a Facebook group and now we can create an actual conversation chat because we love for y'all to join the conversation.
Yeah.
And Facebook, just the algorithms are weird. We don't know what's happening.
Listen, Angela, all I see on my Facebook right now are ads.
Yes.
That's literally all I see. Suggested for you. And it's going to be some article about something I don't care about or for me to buy something. So I think this is fun and great. Now, I don't know how are people getting a notification when they see that somebody's posted something?
They should, and it's in your inbox under messages in Facebook. So it's under Facebook Messenger. So if you want to be part of the conversation and follow us that way, just go to Facebook, search for Rambling Through Everyday Life, and then we will do a chat based on New York. Like, tell us if you've been, what you love, if you have questions. It's just an easy way to do things per episode.
Yeah.
To keep that conversation going.
Yeah. And I think that's awesome. We're going to give it a whirl, y'all.
It's fun.
Yeah. So this week, as you guessed it, we're talking about NYC because we've both been.
We've both been. And I have a confession to make. Okay. So I've lived in this town almost my whole entire life. I live on a farm. We have all these animals. I'm not a big city person. And the closer we got to our actual trip, the more I kept seeing things, including things my snarky little husband would send. Like, New York is so disgusting. It's so dirty. You'll see rats. You'll encounter mean, rude people. You will, you name it. I heard about it. So honestly, this is the funny thing now, looking back. I honestly had told myself, just get through it, have fun for the sake of your child. You never have to go back. It'll be fine. I loved it. I didn't see a rat. I never smelled human feces. All the things that people were telling me were going to happen in New York. The people were nice. Our Uber drivers were so precious and kind and helpful. So anyway.
This is why I love New York. I think people are fascinated by it. I think people want to go, but it feels overwhelming because there's so much to do there. And most people don't go there for a week. It's very different than a beach trip. Now, could you do New York for a week? 100%. But I think people get overwhelmed and they just don't know what to do. But let's back up to why do Angela's coughing.
I know. Now that you've talked about it.
Y'all know, if you've listened, Fran always gets this hacky cough thing.
It's like the power of persuasion. I'm either the most empathetic person and I acquire your symptoms. Same thing, tell me you've got a stomach virus, I feel sick. Like, I don't know if I'm psychotic or empathetic. I don't know. Now I'm losing my voice.
Okay, so this is why I love New York. I've been several times. Here's what's absolutely ridiculous for me to confess right now, because somebody was asking me how many times I've been in the last however long. And I went, well, okay, Clay and I went. I'll go with Clay. My family went a couple of years ago for Christmas, which is if you've never been and you're not sure when to go and you're able to have options, I'm going to suggest Christmas every time. Okay, so we went as a family. Then last November, Clay and I, he's our oldest, he's my travel buddy. We travel so well together. We went last November. Then we went again in May. And then we just got back. We went for my fall break. So essentially, Angela, I've been 3 times.
You know what I love about this?
What? Tell me something
a lot
good.
of things. Okay, think about how Susie said so. Her spiritual gift is shopping and helping the people. Your spiritual gift is figuring out New York City so we can all go have a great vacation with the people we love.
Okay, yeah.
I just made it spiritual.
Yeah,
Way to go, friend.
Yes, I'm using my spiritual gifts. I love New York because I love the fact that you are experiencing so much at one time. And I know that may cause some stress for people, but culturally, you've got the whole world right there. You hear it in the way people talk. You hear different languages. There's different foods. It's just, there's so much variety everywhere. You clearly feel like, oh, I'm not in the South anymore. And it's just, there's something to do all the time. I absolutely love it. It's so life-giving to me. I can be dead dog tired, hit the streets, and I'm like, here we go, people. Where are we going? What are we doing?
Well, it's called the city that never sleeps, and you feel that energy. And then when you're at a red light waiting to cross, or sitting at a table in a restaurant, you just overhear little snippets of conversations in every kind of accent, in every kind of language. And there's just nothing else like it.
Well, and there's different parts. You know, we have covered these trips. I have covered the Bronx. I've covered Brooklyn. We've covered upper west and east side of Manhattan. We've covered Chelsea. We've covered Greenwich Village, Tribeca, the financial district. Like, I've seen the beautiful variety in all of Manhattan. And so there's just places in it that you just can't see it all. You just cannot see it all in one trip.
And you have to either go with somebody who knows or talk to somebody who's been, or really do a little research on the front end. I had the luxury of doing none of those.
I know.
Researchy things.
You showed up.
I just showed up. So it was Kaylee's 21st birthday, 3 of her best friends from college, and one of their mamas, who's my college mama BFF. So we had, Pam was the mama, and she travels a lot and goes to New York a lot. And I had the luxury of saying, Pam, I love you. You love me. I trust you with this. Here's my credit card. You just tell me what I'm doing when I'm there. I need 5 seconds notice of every decision that you're making for this trip. So we had the very best time, but it was so nice. But then also when I got there, I'm type A. I usually am the trip planner. So when we got there, I thought, okay, where am I? What am I doing? I was constantly looking at my phone, just trying to get my bearings on the map. And it was fun, but and also I'm terrible at geography. I really wish I'd paid better attention.
But that was us the first time. I couldn't have figured out. If you told me where is Brooklyn, or asked me where is Brooklyn, I'd been like, I don't know. Like, it just takes you a minute to figure out, what are we even doing and where are we? Because it just feels like a lot.
It does, but at the same time, I was surprised by how walkable and manageable New York is. I had forgotten things I'd learned, just like the fact that it's Manhattan Island. Like, you're on an island.
Yeah, you are.
And all of Manhattan, that, you know, all these things that have landmarks and things, I'm like, oh, well, that's just right there. And when you look at the map, on like Apple Maps or Google Maps, you're like, oh, well, you know, it looks like. Listen,
Clay was the one that told me, and y'all, I may get this wrong because I cannot remember stuff like this if my life depended on it. But we were walking on not our last day, but we were walking one morning, and he goes, yeah, that's the East River. Remember, that's where that pilot landed that plane. Like, wasn't his last name Scully or whatever?
Yes.
And I was like, oh, because we're on the east side of Manhattan. Oh, that's the East River, and that's where he landed that plane. I'm like, dude, how do you know that?
I forgot about that.
It was right there. So you can visualize.
Yes.
Even if you didn't see that,
yes,
you can see, like, that's not real big.
Well, when we Ubered rather to the south part of the island, to Battery Park, to look across and see the Statue of Liberty, we packed a lot in, but we didn't have time for a lot of things. So we had to see Lady Liberty in all her glory
from afar.
Got a great picture at almost sunset. It was
Angela,
beautiful.
you were literally, our hotel was on Water Street.
It was right there.
It was right there. You were right where we stayed.
And Fran and I missed each other by 48 hours.
And I missed Taylor Swift. I mean, I was there at the same time as Taylor Swift.
It's a wonder you're not in jail right now for being a good stalker.
And she was in the area we were staying. And I'm so sad. Okay, carry on.
Well, we walked from Battery Park to Chinatown.
Yeah.
Because one of Kaylee's friends, Jordan, her dad, this was crazy. We were shopping one day and her dad just appeared in the store. We knew he was coming to New York on a business trip.
Oh.
And it was so sweet. He could take her on a coffee date to Starbucks and then they got to spend some time together. But
say, do you want to take us shopping? All of us?
For real. You know, we missed an opportunity. We had a dad there that probably had a credit card in his wallet. Anyway, he recommended Joe's.
Yes. Pizza?
No. It was in Chinatown.
Sorry.
Joe's Shanghai?
Oh, yeah.
Oh my goodness. Let me tell you, you know how when you go to the mall food court and you just really, you know it's a bad idea.
Yes.
But in the moment, you really, really, really want honey chicken.
And you think that's going to be the best egg roll you've ever had in your life.
It smells good and it just sounds good. And then 5 minutes later, you know it's a bad decision because it just, This was the opposite of that. This was like if honey chicken was really good, not too sweet, and never made you sick afterwards.
Yeah.
It was amazing. I think that's what it was called.
I love Soho. I love that whole area. It's very wealthy. It's expensive to live in Soho because I believe, let me tell y'all something. Any area I've ever been in, I'm Googling real estate cost in that particular area. And Soho is just so clean. It feels very sophisticated. And it is. And when I looked up, like I'd just plug in an address, like we'd walk past a building and I'd plug it in. It's just millions of dollars, or anywhere from $20,000 to $50,000 a month to rent. And I'm like, this is out of my league, but I'll eat here.
And it's fascinating because most of these people have no green space.
Yeah.
Our first day there, this lady was walking her dog, and the dog literally stops in the middle of the sidewalk to do his business, and she just scoops down and picks it up. I'm like, this dog just knows not to expect grass or yards. You just go on the sidewalk.
That's all they ever know.
That was interesting to country girl over here. But so anyway, we're walking from Battery Park to Chinatown, and we passed, and you'll look up as you're crossing and you're like, oh, that's Wall Street. You're like, hold on, that is the Wall Street.
Wall Street.
And you had told me about it. But at the same time, like things just appear and you're like, hold on, pause, I need a photo of this. So, and it was Columbus Day, so everything was closed.
Yeah, but still.
So then we look up and there's a Titanic memorial.
I don't know if I've ever seen it.
I had forgotten or just not thought about in the moment that the Titanic was headed to that port in New York and would have docked there.
Yeah.
So
look at us.
Of course, I had to look it up, but this Titanic memorial, it's a lighthouse, and they originally had put it on top of a church building, and when that building was being demolished, they moved the memorial to this location. But we just took a moment of, it just felt very somber and heavy and interesting, and we had to just pause. You never know what you'll stumble into.
Yeah.
Just from point A to point B.
Well, and that is what's crazy, because the very first time we went, I felt like that's all we ever did, because we just would like walk around and be like, oh, well, there's the Plaza Hotel, or we're at Central Park, or and you're like, it would have kind of been a better idea to kind of map some things out so we would know, like, I don't want to miss the New York Stock Exchange. I've walked past it every time. I still take a picture of it every time. But the very first time, you're like, oh, I could have missed this. There's so much to see.
And everything feels exciting and important.
It is.
I've seen this in movies. I've heard about it my whole life. This is the actual whatever, fill in the blank. So another thing, I'm going to talk about some things too that were happy surprises or just interesting things. But when we landed and we're waiting on the Uber to take us to the hotel, I was like, oh, we're 5 miles to the hotel. Shouldn't take long at all. I think it took us an hour.
Traffic is horrible.
To get from the airport to the hotel. But other than that, like everything was great. We never had any bad Uber experiences.
That's good.
But that was that set the tone of, okay, let's just expect things to take a while. That was our big city experience. But the driver was so fascinating. It was almost like having a tour guide with every Uber, because you've got all these women and we're very chatty and conversational, and it was funny because nobody was like bullying us, but they would kindly say, so where are you from?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
we tell them, they say, oh yeah, we could tell you weren't from here.
Yeah. Thank you.
What gave that away?
Mm-hmm.
But he explained how, and you know this, but the island is a big grid,
Mm-hmm.
and how the streets run,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and how you can get your bearings. And I still couldn't even tell you what he told me. But as I would look at the map, I think the numbers go up as you're walking north.
I don't even know.
And then the avenues go east to west. I don't know, but it's a big grid. So if you are not directionally challenged like I am, it might make more sense.
I'm trying to keep, yeah, I don't know.
Anyway, it all makes sense. Whoever laid this out. And then I didn't know that like Soho, I didn't know that stood for like South Houston. I didn't know that all these things in like Tribeca, they're all like abbreviations for things. I just thought that was the word that they called it.
Mm-hmm.
So my little mind was blown at every turn. But we stayed in the theater district,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's called,
Mm-hmm.
in a Hilton. It was so nice, and you literally, I was so fascinated, and you prepared me for this, but I live in the country. It takes 20 minutes to get to anything that you might need. You could walk out of that hotel, take 5 steps, and get a newspaper, an ibuprofen, a Red Bull, a water, a candy bar, a sewing kit,
Mm-hmm.
anything
Whatever.
and everything you need
Mm-hmm.
is right there.
Everything is right there.
A hot dog,
Well,
a Philly
and-
cheesesteak.
And you don't think about, like I needed an umbrella. It rained on us. It wasn't a horrible rain, but one day it was just enough for I needed an umbrella, and I didn't have one. Well, you know what? Guess what, everybody? They have CVS. They
Yeah.
have things everywhere. And you can literally get anything you need. I think you just think it's just a bunch of concrete buildings that are either workspaces or, you know, that people live in, or restaurants.
I have 2 fun things to say about that.
Okay, keep going.
It started raining one day, we were there, and all of a sudden you walk out, because I thought, you know, did that little man at the helpful station have any umbrellas or ponchos? The girls kept saying, we need a poncho. Before we even got to the little man with all the things on the sidewalk, there are 3 people that pass us with shopping carts full of ponchos and umbrellas. They just appear and peddle these things
Or
right there on the
fruit.
sidewalk.
Or did you see the ladies that would make those fruit cups?
Yes.
And you're just like, where did you appear from?
Yes.
But apparently maybe I need that too.
Yes, she'll give you some mango and some pineapple.
Mhm.
Just right
And
there.
And it is, you don't have to want for anything.
No.
And it's just fascinating to me because we're so used to getting in a car and having to go to the store, which you just walk.
You just walk everywhere. And I did notice in CVS, everything was locked up.
Yeah. Not all of it.
Not all of it, but a lot of it took
Mhm.
longer because they had to come unlock the case to give you mascara or razor blades or
But then-
lotion or
But some things aren't. So
Mhm.
it's like, well, why is the mascara locked up but not the whatever?
yeah, it's interesting.
It is interesting.
And then we noticed that you know, you can't. I have the luxury of pulling into a garage and unloading things directly into my kitchen. A lot of us do. There, you know, we would eat our bagels and look around and just observe things and think, well, how do they load in furniture? How do they, you know, make that Walmart Sam's Run where you have 9,000 things to unload? But they probably go more often because it's right there and get smaller loads each time.
You know, I know that I have had people that have lived there say that the locals do not eat out every meal because they just can't afford to do that. So they will go to their local market. Everything is in your neighborhood. So wherever you live, that's where you're going to, you know, do your shopping and all that. So they'll go to their market, but if you ever noticed, the people that live there, they can only carry 2 bags.
And then storage. They don't have big kitchens with cabinet space.
So you're only getting what you need in that moment, and that might just last you, you know, 2 days. And
Which is what I need to do because I threw away so many things that go bad because of my good intentions.
And then you may have to haul it up flights of stairs. So, you know, they are in much better shape than we are because we just don't know what that's like.
Well, for a 21-year-old Kaylee Snyder, it was a great place to have a birthday. We arrived, and she would not let me tell anybody on the Southwest flight that it was her birthday, and I so wanted to do that.
Because they would have sung to her.
They did that for Cole one year.
I remember that.
You remember that? They took the toilet paper roll and made a birthday cake and announced it on the plane, and She looked at me dead in the face and said, Mama, I will never get over it. And I thought, I'm not starting this trip. But I couldn't show up empty-handed, so I had candy, and I found that little cake that you bake in the mug and put the little sprinkles on it. And y'all, we got to that hotel room and had no microwave. So
Well,
she did not get her little cake after all. But there was a really good Asian restaurant called Wagamama. Have you been there? Have you heard of that? Our waiter, Dimitri, said, where are you from? And we said, Tennessee. And he said, well, go Vols.
Oh, gosh.
And I thought, Dimitri at the Asian restaurant in New York City is a Vols fan.
How fun is that?
How fun is that? So he was fantastic. It was our first meal there, and it was so fun because he went above and beyond. He had them sing to her and bring her a cake, and it was just so precious.
Yes.
And then Kaylee said, after we eat dinner, the one thing I want to do on my birthday is go to Times Square. So iconic, she's heard about it, you've seen it, New Year's Eve, all the things. So we go to Times Square, and that is the one and only time this whole entire trip that she got so overwhelmed. She almost had tears in her eyes, but she looked at me and she said, this is not what I thought it would be. Now, it's worth doing, but when you think about your ultimate birthday adventure, like it literally just is video screens with advertisements.
Yeah. Here's my thoughts on Times Square. And I think if you've never been, clearly, and well, let me back up and say, we go every time, but we stay for about 5 minutes.
The people watching cannot be matched.
No, it cannot be matched. It is very overwhelming. And you envision all those people down there. None of those people are locals. Like, those are all tourists that are down there. A local is not going to be down there if their life depended on it. So it's fascinating. It's fun to see it all. You do just kind of look around at all those boards and all the advertisement and think, what in the world? But also, okay, I'm ready to go.
We saw weird Minnie Mouse, and she popped her head off and was like, come here, little girl, let me take a picture. I mean, just terrifying.
We saw Naked Cowboy our last day.
We did not see him. We saw the naked ladies. That was weird.
I haven't seen them. But
they had on shorts, but nothing else except some body paint. That was an experience.
Yeah, it's just interesting. It's interesting, but yeah, I think you have to see it, but then you don't feel bad about getting out of there.
Yes, and luckily Junior's is right around the corner. You can go have some cheesecake and get over it all.
Did I tell you? Well, I think I did tell you. So Clay and I went to Junior's. We went one night, and why we went at night, I don't know. I couldn't tell you why we do anything that we do, but we go up in there, and we were like, oh yeah, let's get this, and we'll each get a piece. Angela, a piece of cheesecake from Junior's, of all, I think it was $15 a slice, and the slice was ginormous. We could have easily split it. So we both got, a slice of cheesecake, 2 drinks, and I swear it felt like $126. That's the other thing about New York. You're going to be dropping some dollars, people.
You are.
You are dropping the dollars, and you need to be prepared for that.
But I have a different philosophy. We all got our own cheesecake, and nobody was touching mine. I ate every last crumb. And we ordered steak fries. So we had already had dinner. We needed some salty with the sweet.
Oh, my gosh.
We ate, y'all. Oh, my gosh. We ate and ate and ate. But then we found this little place. We were just trying to salvage the, I'm so overwhelmed. This is craziness. We found a place, I think it was called Haven, and they had this rooftop. All these college girls know to go on Instagram and look for cute places. Listen,
at a rooftop, every time we go, I'm Googling best rooftop in NYC. I can't recall it off the top of my head right now, but not this past time, but I think when Clay and I were there in May, maybe. It's across Manhattan on some island. I don't know what I'm talking about, y'all, but it is literally the best panoramic view of Manhattan, and you need to be there at sunset. And it is absolutely incredible. Oh, it's called Panorama Room.
Oh.
Panorama? I'm not sure. One of those two. And it is, you have to get reservations. You can't just show up. They only let so many people in at a time. It is absolutely incredible. But yeah, they're everywhere. Rooftop, rooftop restaurant and bars are everywhere, and it's just a matter of, oh, let's go to that one. It's so worth it.
They're all so cute and iconic. The bagels the next morning. I think we had bagels every morning. I had blueberry, I had cinnamon raisin. There's nothing like it. Like I thought I'd had a bagel before. And then you get there and you're like, my goodness. And the other thing that impressed me, I'm claustrophobic. It was a teeny tiny shop, of course, people everywhere, packed in shoulder to shoulder. You had maybe 10 people behind the counter, and they would follow you from the beginning of your order to the end, and they would remember who you were.
Every restaurant, every kind of, I don't want to say every restaurant, lots of restaurants are like that.
How do they?
I don't know how they do it.
They're the smartest people I know, because I would have screwed up everybody's order and give it to the wrong person.
Now, they will have 100 people behind that counter, and so maybe there's some kind of system that they have, but even if you go to, go inside a Magnolia Bakery, which I've been in lots just to get coffee or whatever, and they just follow you or a group of people through their entire order, and I swear, I'm like, how do you do it so quickly? Because you don't wait for long.
It's the Chick-fil-A of bagels.
It is, and they're just knocking it out. So if you go, don't let that intimidate you and think, oh my God, there's too many people, it's going to take too long. They've got it figured out.
We would love to just sit on those little corners at a table and take it in. We looked out the window and I saw a street sign that said Jerry Orbach Way. And I was like, why does that name sound familiar? It's the dad from Dirty Dancing.
Oh.
And his little street sign was right there.
Right there.
And Law and Order.
Look at there.
But you just see all these things, and I was constantly asking Siri, who's this, who's that? Tell me what's going on.
Listen, I Googled every time, what celebrities live in this part of Manhattan?
It's fascinating.
Who do I need to go stalk?
I never saw a TMZ photographer, but I thought, you know what? If we start seeing the paparazzi, we're going to figure out who's here.
Well, and when we walked through Greenwich Village one day, it was just a beautiful day, I would catch myself looking in these little cafes because these are obscure neighborhoods. These are not, these are just low-key neighborhoods. But celebrities are known for being in these places. And I thought, I'm going to see somebody.
And then you wonder, will I recognize them?
No.
Because when they're not all made up, we passed one girl who was she had on a hoodie and she had a hat and she kind of was pulling her hat down over her face. And I looked at Kaylee and I said, I bet that's somebody.
I bet it is.
Because just the way she was darting in and out of the crowd.
Well, and anytime we're in Central Park, there's so many people in Central Park running or walking. I think it'd be so easy for a celebrity to have a hat on and sunglasses and run, especially, and nobody would have a clue.
I wanted to run like Phoebe Buffet through Central Park, and I never did, but I'll have to go back and do that for sure. But it was fun, too, to ask the girls that were with us. Jordan's from Texas, and Sophie's from Arkansas, and Joya's from Atlanta. So they're from all over, but it was fun to ask them, what do you notice? Like, when you're just sitting here, what do you notice? And just all the things moving around them so quickly is so fascinating to that age. And they noticed the fire escapes.
Oh, that is funny.
And the balconies. They talked about that. They noticed how we saw an adult ballerina leaving her class.
Well.
And her leg warmers and her bun and her hair. And it's just, you just see all these things. And the mail carrier from the post office had this little wagon with a little rain cover over it, just walking down the sidewalk with the mail covered up. It's just things that you just don't see that here.
Yeah. Some of my favorite things, and I know people are wondering, okay, what are some touristy type things to do? We've never gone to Ellis Island to the Statue of Liberty because you cannot go up in the torch anymore, so we've never done that. But I think that if you're looking for touristy type things to do, these are absolutely my favorite every time. I'm going to suggest that you walk the High Line.
We did not do that.
I know. You've got to do it the next time. And it really, the time of year, it's not something you want to do in the wintertime. Oh, if you're going at Christmas or anything, I wouldn't suggest it then, but it's wonderful in the fall or the summer months. But to walk the High Line, I'm a huge fan of these two, and I think that they are just superb. Okay, I would go to the top of the edge that is down in Hudson Yards. If you want to see a view of the city like no other, and yes, I'm terrified of heights, but I did it anyway, and you just have to do it. The same for if you're at Rockefeller Center. I love Rockefeller Center. It's just, I don't know. I think 'cause I've seen it at Christmas time and I've seen it at non-Christmas time, but Top of the Rock is at Rockefeller Center, and that's Clay's favorite view of the city because at each side of the building, you're getting different views of the city, whereas Top of the Rock, you kind of just see this one angle of the city. But if you're at Top of the Rock, you can see, oh, if I'm on this side, I see Central Park. If I'm on this side, I see this, that, and the other. I love both of them. What I didn't love is the Empire State Building, and this is why I don't love the Empire State Building. When you get to the top of the Empire State Building and you want to step outside for that view, which you're getting the outside view at Top of the Rock and the Edge, okay? You're going to get that. But when you go outside at the Empire State Building, Angela, it's as big as this table. And you feel like I'm going to die. The wind is going to blow and I'm going to die. I don't love that. I need some space, and I need to choose how much I'm going to step out into that view. So that's why I don't love that. We're huge fans of the subway system. I know that people are like, I can't figure it out. It's overwhelming. Let me tell you something. If you want to try the subway system, this is all you need to know. This isn't really all you need to know. But you're going to take the 123 train, the red line. It runs north-south. That's what you're going to take. Just keep that in mind. That's what you're going to do. The subway's fun. It lets you see and experience people in just a different way. Clay can navigate the subway system like nobody's business. If you use your maps and you put in, your current location and where you want to go, just switch it over to the subway mode. And
it's something I've never done in my life.
And it will tell you exactly how many stops and where you get off. It's brilliant. And so we didn't know that the first time we went. And then when Clay and I went that first time together, we were like, oh, I wish we would have known that before. And then, of course, you've got to see Central Park and Fifth Avenue. Like, you just want to take pictures of everything on Fifth Avenue because you're like, this is truly iconic. This is the fashion industry of the entire world. It feels like right here on one street.
We walked in some of those stores and we were all just trying to pretend to be fancy and rich. And the salespeople were kind enough to play along and not say, what are you doing here?
Did y'all go in Tiffany's?
We did not go in Tiffany's. We took pictures of it. The Columbus Parade, or now they call it Indigenous People Parade, but it was that Monday.
Yeah.
And there was a huge parade happening and just all kinds of things going on. But that was also our Central Park day.
Yeah.
And we'd spent a lot of time in Central Park. Kaylee's friend Jordan asked the guy to play Hotel California, and she wound up on the microphone singing with him.
Oh, that's so funny.
And it was so fun. And I said, is this something she normally does? Is she just like the karaoke queen? And they were like, no, we're shocked that she did that. But New York just takes over. But just being with them, and they were taking all their cute little pictures. But you just look around Central Park and you think, okay, I've seen this bridge in a movie. I've seen this skyline through these trees in something. My jaw was on the ground. I just kept taking it all in.
One day we walked past, the Plaza Hotel is right next to Central Park. And one day we were going to Central Park and we tried to go in the Plaza and they were not letting guests in.
That was our experience.
And I don't know why that was, because that's never happened before. So we just kind of were like, well, for whatever reason, I don't know. Maybe there were famous people coming that day and I don't know. But then the next day we were near there and we did go in. And it's so funny because the Plaza Hotel, for those of you all that are our age and you grew up with Home Alone, then you kind of expect the inside to look like that. It doesn't look like that at all. But it's absolutely beautiful. And I took a picture and put it in my stories. I'm going to share the pictures and put them on my Facebook soon, because I haven't done that yet because I've been sick. But they have an entrance for people that just live at the Plaza Hotel. Angela, I don't know about y'all, but I literally walked around so much of the time going, excuse me, I like wanted to tap people on the shoulder. Do you live here?
Whenever I would see a private entrance sign that said residents only.
What do you do?
Yeah, I wanted to stand there and see who those residents are.
I need to know what they do for a living.
I just picture a little man with a top hat and a briefcase.
What do you do?
I need to know.
I need to know
We
those
need
things. There's some guy on TikTok that literally follows people around in big cities with a microphone, and he's like, excuse me, sir.
What do you do?
And I'm like, I wanted to be that person.
Well, this was kind of fun. One of the days we went to the Met.
Yeah, we did too.
You and I both loved. Oh,
well,
my goodness.
Can I say one? I think Clay was fine with it. If you don't know what the Met is, the Metropolitan Museum, no, is that right? The Metropolitan Museum
of Art.
Of Art.
I don't know. We call it the Met.
There's
the Met Gala.
Yes. And so that was our rainy day excursion. And so
that was our rainy day excursion.
We knew we needed to be inside a little bit that day. It was very overwhelming.
It was, and Kaylee and I love. She taught me her love of Monet, and
that's the only reason why I went, sister. Is I wanted to see all of that art, and let me tell you, it was worth it.
And by the time we got to the floor where Monet and Van Gogh was, we were kind of overstimulated and overwhelmed. We'd been there a while. In hindsight, we wish we'd gone straight there to see the things first that we wanted to the most, and spent more time, because it just you felt kind of.
I felt a little
crowded.
Lost. I felt like when we walked in, sorry guys that y'all don't care anything about this, and you maybe if you
now we are art connoisseurs.
But like when we walked in, we hung a right and went to the Egyptian side, and we got kind of lost back in there, and then we found our way to the American side, and then ended up having lunch back there at some cafe. I want y'all to guess how much I spent for 2 people to have lunch, and all it was 2 sandwiches, 2 chips, and 2 waters. How much do you think I spent on lunch there at the Met?
Oh gosh, I have no idea.
$92.
What?
And it cost money to get in, which we could have lied and said like I was a student and he was a student.
We don't advocate lying on our podcast.
We don't. But I wasn't prepared for the cost.
That's a lot.
For all this, like just walking around.
Wow.
Anyway.
Well, speaking of cafes, before I'd forgotten about this, but one of our we had brunch. We got some avocado toast.
Hey, are we leaving the Met? Are we moving on?
I
just want to say one thing.
Okay.
The fact that like I had a moment like Picasso had this. It's not a pretty painting at all, but it's one of the few that I think has his name written in the corner, an autographed piece. And even Van Gogh or whoever, you're just like, oh my God, that's like really theirs.
Well, and then we wondered, like, are we really able to get this close to the real thing, or is this a replica?
It's the real thing, isn't it?
It is, and it starts messing with your head. Like, is this really what I'm looking at? But almost as soon as we had that conversation, an alarm goes off, and it's like,
you're too close.
You're too close. So I was like, well, maybe I voice activated that because they think I'm a suspicious person. I don't know.
And then, people that would donate things to the Met, and I'm like, what do you people do? Again, how do you have access and resources to these things?
And then there's things from other countries, and you're like, how did we get that here in America?
I don't know.
Why is that?
I don't know.
But anyway, this is not as fancy as I'm leaving fancy conversation to go the other direction. But
we're more equipped to talk about Taylor Swift than we are the Met.
So we're eating our avocado toast, making conversation with the waiter, whose name is Jake.
This is not
very
at the,
chatty.
Not
no,
at
this
the
is
Met.
not at the Met. This is on the Sidewalk Cafe.
Okay.
But we just start talking to him, and I don't know how this comes up, but we're like, or he said, what are y'all doing later? And we said, we have tickets to go see Wicked. And he said, oh, my friend so-and-so, let me text her and see if she can do something special since it's Kaylee's birthday. And we were like, well, dang, he knows somebody in Wicked. So then the more we talk, we find out he's an actor. And he wasn't like putting it out there bragging. You know me. I'm like cross-examining him at this point. I'm like, I need all these answers. But he's been in Blue Bloods.
Oh wow!
And he's been on Broadway and Pretty Woman and Kinky Boots and some of these shows. But it was just so like you really don't know who you're talking to.
Well, because you're in New York.
You're in New York, so have conversation. Which I mean, granted, not everybody in New York wants to be chatty with people from the South, but everybody we talk to engaged in conversation. And actually, and we were holding back because we were told, you know, you don't make eye contact. They'll think you're weird or you want something. So I was like, don't look at anybody. Don't speak to them. Try to not be extra. But it was so fun. And he texted her, and we were supposed to find her at Stage Right after Wicked. And we asked somebody where Stage Right was. And dang, if that woman didn't send us straight outside. I think she thought we were trying to get back somewhere we weren't supposed to be.
Oh.
So she gave us directions that took us outside the theater. So then we gave up.
Yeah. Oh, well. We tried to go get tickets. We, you know, we're not super big planners, and I know that stresses a lot of people out, but we do have an idea of what we're going to do each day. But we wanted to go to a Broadway play.
I highly recommend Wicked. I had never, ever seen it before.
I wanted to see The
Loved
Lion
it.
King.
That would be great.
Anyway, we did not get to do that because this is all we're going to say about this because mercy alive, but we were going to get our tickets that day, and we get off the subway at Times Square because you can get cheaper tickets the day of at TKTS in Times Square. And that's when the Palestinian protest was going on.
Oh, that's right.
And so we literally got off the subway and landed in Times Square to that.
I think that's important for context between our two trips to know one of the days we were there, I was getting texts from home saying, are y'all okay? I heard there's a protest in Times Square. And then when you were there, a few days later, there was a bigger protest.
Yeah, the world is still upside down.
Yeah.
But you had the Palestinian protest happening and then the Israelis on the other side of the street. And it was a little unnerving because anywhere else in the city, you just felt like you were completely fine and safe and had no idea that the world was in the state that it was. But Times Square, those things are going to happen in Times Square because that's where they're going to get the most attention.
Yeah.
The most people are there. But anyway, needless to say, we did not get our tickets to the Broadway show.
Well, I will say this, because Susie said so. Listeners need to know these things. Susie, we know she's right. We trust her completely. But it was fun to see the things that she told us to be wearing in this season. I saw lots of vest. I saw lots of leather. I saw lots of chunky shoes. I did buy myself a purple pleather dress for Broadway. That was so cute. And the night of Broadway, it was 50 degrees and windy, and I said, nope, I'm wearing my black uniform that we'll talk about in a minute. Didn't wear that, but we did, I did buy a $60 Jones, New York black leather coat that's blazer style off the sidewalk from a man that I haggled with. And I was so proud of that. He was set up outside a church on the sidewalk, and he had all these leather coats, and I love it. And it does have a button that's dangling just a little that can be fixed. But otherwise, it was in great condition, and it was warm, and I felt so cute and so warm, and I wore that thing every day.
Buy that stuff off the side of the street. I have bought many a fake Louis Vuittons and wallets and stuff just because, you know what, if it lasts a year, it was worth that $50-$60 bucks.
And then the girls, you know, their one mission as college girls and Taylor Swift fans was to walk Cornelia Street.
Yes.
To see her former apartment, and then.
What did you think about that? What did you think?
I thought it was underwhelming because you see it in pictures.
It seems bigger.
It seems big, and you're just right there. But Electric Lady Studios.
I meant to go there and we didn't.
Well, here's what's funny. It's in Greenwich Village. It's the oldest working studio in New York. So, but again, you're just walking down a sidewalk, and it's right there.
It's right there, yeah.
And the windows and doors are kind of mirrored, so the girls are like looking in and like knocking on the door and going, "Let me in!" And Jack Antonoff, are you in there? Well, then Julia like really looks closely, and she's like, "Y'all, there's a man staring at us." But I'm sure they are not the first people to do that. But it was actually like Jimi Hendrix started the studio in 1968. I had no idea. Stevie Wonder and Led Zeppelin and the Rolling Stones and all these people have recorded there.
Yeah.
So, you know, I have to get on Google and tell the people all the things about everywhere we're going. But it's just fascinating. It's so fascinating.
I love New York so much. I highly encourage people to go.
Yes.
I'll say this. You mentioned where you stayed. That's a very common question for people to ask, and that is, where should we stay? Listen, there are so many options. I think it's always going to come down to what do you want to pay? Because there's really not a, now what I was going to say, there's really not a bad place to stay. I would not stay on Times Square. I would not do that. But anywhere outside of Times Square, it's just what do you want to pay? We always stay in the financial district down towards Wall Street because it's just quieter down there, and we just feel very safe down there, and that's just why we stay there. But I think it's just, what do you want to pay for?
Yeah, and there are nice hotels on Times Square.
But just don't do it. It's too busy, and I cannot imagine it being quiet at night.
Oh no, not at all. I have a few things that I loved, that I traveled with, that I insisted that you travel with.
And then I traveled with them, and now we both insist that everyone has these items.
Thank you, Instagram.
Yes.
That's where these came from. I had a black quilted Lululemon belt bag. I just thought it would be $9 million because it's Lululemon.
How much was it?
I don't remember, but I remember being pleasantly surprised. Now, I don't know if that was relative to I thought it would be $9 million or if it really was a good deal, but I don't know why I ever carry a purse after wearing a belt bag.
I don't either.
First in 47 years belt bag experience. There will be others.
Yeah, I feel like I'm going to ask for one of those for Christmas.
Yes, that needs to go on everybody's Christmas list if you don't have one. Then I had seen on an Instagram ad that black travel outfit that's like, it's as cute as a one piece, but it's two separate pieces to make it easier. Here's the irony, and you know, pulling an Angela. I had it arrive and I loved it and I thought it was so great, and then the next day another one arrived. So apparently, you know, when I get up at midnight for a potty break because I've had too much water and I happen to look at my phone, I wind up buying things off Instagram on occasion. So,
honey, you got your money's worth because I wore it all too.
And you know, I can justify anything, the lawyer in me, but you will agree with this. One of them was a slinkier fabric that was a little bit cuter. That's what I wore to Broadway. The other one had a little hoodie and more of a crew neck, super soft. I can put information on both of them out there. But the ultimate, if you don't want to look like you're sloppy in pajamas, you will look great and also feel. I felt like I was wearing pajamas.
Yeah. And you just, but I felt very sophisticated.
Absolutely. Sophisticated pajamas.
I felt very sophisticated in my outfit, and it doesn't wrinkle, and it was just, it was fabulous.
Yes. Okay, let's talk about shoes real quick.
Okay.
Because before we do, let me say this. Fran Thomas walked, my biggest step count of my trip was your slacker day of your trip.
But I need to preface this by saying everybody does New York differently.
Yes, and I had college girls in cute outfits who didn't care to walk 50,000 steps in a day.
And our view, Clay and I always want to, I feel like I've just walked Manhattan we did go to Columbia University. Did I tell you that?
No.
Y'all, this is Ivy League school. We did go up to Columbia, and it's an Ivy League school where the average ACT is 35, and if there's a 4% acceptance rate. So I felt like I was in Harvard. The only reason my kids knew about Columbia is because it's referenced on the Netflix show Suits, because they want all their lawyers, Angela, to come from Columbia. So it is prestigious. Anyway, everybody does New York different, and we just happen to be people that the only pair of shoes that I take 2 different tennis shoes because we're walking literally everywhere.
Well, we added up our step counts.
I made you do it for me.
You made me do it. My trip was 56,550 steps.
And how many days?
We were there part of Friday night. Friday night, and then Saturday, Sunday, Monday.
Okay.
And then a little bit. So about 4 days total.
Okay.
Fran's trip, 101,869 total steps for an average. I had to do all your averages. An average of 25,000 steps per day, 48 total miles. You average 12 miles per day, Fran Thomas.
Yeah. Okay. And with that,
but you don't have to. If that sounds daunting, don't let that keep you out of New York City, because I did not do that, and we had a wonderful time.
That's right.
A lot of things.
And so if you feel like, I want to walk, I want to see all of it in a walking way, well then you're going to do like I do. and yeah, you might put in 12 miles a day. So you're just going to take 2 pairs of tennis shoes. I take my Hokas and I take my On Clouds. Those are very different shoes, and I alternate them.
I did the same thing. I did Hokas and On Clouds.
And then if you're going to put in Friday was the day that we walked 31,000 steps. 31, that's 15 miles.
I did well to get 5,000 around here.
Well, and I thought, 10,000 was a lot, but anyway, 31,000.
Take preventative ibuprofen each morning if that's your...
And you need socks that are going to be very cushiony around your toes and your heel.
Moleskin saved our girls. Moleskin is so great. I learned that from going to Disney World, but you can wrap it around your toes so they don't rub and cause blisters.
Because I was hurting. But anyway, so yeah, I'm just all about a really good tennis shoe. And in New York, you'll see ladies, and nobody cares. Nobody cares what you look like when you go into a restaurant. Nobody cares.
I was so worried about not having the fashion style to be in the city, and that was all debunked.
If you're going and it's cold, just have on all black and a black jacket and your tennis shoes. Nobody's going to care.
Well, my favorite part about all this for both of us is how much fun you had with your son, how much fun I had with these college girls and my mama BFF. I mean, shout out to them. They were the best travel buddies. I kept forgetting I'm not in college too. We just had, but they were appropriately. They were ready to go to bed at 11:30. They were kind of lame for a minute. And I was like, come on now.
Oh, Clay and I we'd go about 12 hours a day and get back to the room, and I'd be like, oh my God, I'm so exhausted. And it takes you so long to kind of wind down and go to bed. But towards the end of the trip, there was a couple of times when I was like, Clay, I gotta sit down for a minute. I got to sit.
The best move we made was when Sophie said, I know where to go, and we went and hid at the second floor of Crate and Barrel on their sectional sofas and just sat there a minute and regrouped, and we were ready to keep shopping.
I know. My hips were sore, my legs were sore, but gosh, I highly recommend anybody that is interested in New York, and either one of us can answer questions if you're mainly curious about, I don't know, maybe flights, where
Southwest,
what to do, where to fly into, where to stay. I think people are always asking, like, what restaurants. Listen,
don't plan that ahead, because you don't know where you'll be.
You don't know where you'll be, and there's really not a bad place. I mean, there's an area in Chelsea that I absolutely love. There's just, but you're just going to eat wherever you eat. Don't worry about food, because it's literally everywhere.
It's everywhere, and if you just need a fun experience with any age, I thought I would have to convince Cole that he might want to go next time, and he said, I'd love to go.
Well, listen, I didn't say this, but Clay and I went to a Knicks preseason game. He and I went in May. He went again in July, and he went to a Mets game. If that's your thing, then go to some sporting event while you're there. There's so much to do.
No shortage of options for entertainment.
Go for a long weekend. It's worth it. I told Clay when we left, I said, well, I'll see you next fall break, because we're doing it again. If not sooner, we're doing it again.
We'll definitely go back. I didn't think Carl could tolerate it.
I think he could. I think he'd be surprised. You'd have to, kind of craft the right trip.
We need the Braves to play the Mets in New York, and that can get him there.
Okay, everybody. Welcome to New York. We've been waiting for you.
We sang that the whole time.
Oh, so much fun, y'all. It's so much fun. Okay, thanks so much for listening to us ramble about
New York City.
New York City. All right, you guys, have a wonderful day and week. We'll see you next time. That was fun.
How long was that? Are we still recording?
It was 53 minutes.
We hope y'all are still with us.
Hi, goodbye.